Most people think keeping an engine alive past 200,000 miles has to cost you a fortune. Oil treatments, engine flushes, premium synthetic blends, special additives and fancy bottles with complicated names. But this changes everything. The reality is actually a single dollar. $1. And the only reason you never knew that is because dealerships and mechanics made absolutely sure you wouldn't. You have been paying for engine flushes that cost $150 or more. You have been told your engine needs expensive treatments every few thousand miles just to survive. You have been sold the idea that longevity is something you buy in a shop, not something you do yourself in your driveway in under 5 minutes. Stay here, because what I am about to show you is the part that makes every dealership deeply uncomfortable. This is not complicated. This is not dangerous. This is not some garage experiment that might go wrong. This is what Japanese mechanics have been doing quietly for decades, and it is why their engines keep running long after yours would have been replaced. $1, 1 tablespoon, and your engine could outlast anything you have ever owned. The mechanic is named Hiroshi. He works out of a small garage in Osaka, Japan. He has been managing a fleet of taxicabs since the early 1980s. Those taxis run every single day. Long shifts, stop and go traffic. Hot summers and cold winters. Hard miles. The kind of miles that destroy engines. And yet, car after car in his fleet has crossed 500,000 miles without a single engine rebuild. Not one. He has never paid for a professional engine flush in his life. And the only difference between him and you is that someone told him this existed when he was 19 years old. Think about that for a second. 500,000 miles. In a taxi, in Japanese city traffic. That is not luck. That is not some miracle engine. That is a trick. A $1 trick that his mentor passed down to him like a family recipe. Something so simple it sounds fake when you first hear it. But the results are impossible to argue with. And once you understand why it works, you will never look at your engine the same way again. Here is what is actually happening inside your engine right now. Every time your engine runs, it burns fuel. And burning fuel leaves behind tiny traces of gunk. Not enough to notice at first. Think of it like a coffee filter that you never clean. The first cup goes through fine. The second cup, fine. But after hundreds of uses, that filter starts clogging. The flow slows down, the pressure changes, and eventually, what should be a clean, simple process starts to struggle. Your engine is the same. Every mile you drive, tiny deposits of burned oil and carbon build up on the inside of your engine walls. They coat the parts that are supposed to move freely. They narrow the little channels where oil flows. And over years, over tens of thousands of miles, that buildup gets thick, it gets sticky, and it starts to steal years from your engine's life. This is what mechanics call sludge. Sludge is just old, burned, broken down oil that turned into something closer to mud than liquid. It sits inside your engine. It blocks oil from reaching the parts that need it most. And without proper oil flow, metal touches metal without protection. That is where engines age fast. That is where engines die early. Now here's what the dealership does about this. They sell you an engine flush, a professional service where they pump a special cleaning chemical through your engine, let it run for a few minutes, drain it, and replace your oil. Cost at most shops? Between $150 and $250, recommended every 30,000 miles by the people who profit from it. That is over $1,000 every 100,000 miles, just for cleaning, just to fight a problem that you could solve yourself for $1 in your own driveway before your regular oil change. And this is the part that makes every dealership deeply uncomfortable. What Hiroshi does is this. He adds 1 tablespoon of cheap automatic transmission fluid to his engine oil. He does it 15 minutes before every single oil change. Then he lets the engine idle, just idle, for 15 minutes. Then he drains the oil like normal. And what comes out of that engine is not clean oil. It is black. It is thick. It carries with it all the sludge, all the carbon deposits, all the built-up gunk that was slowly strangling the engine. Out it comes, into a drain pan. And then fresh oil goes in and the engine breathes again. Automatic transmission fluid is what mechanics call a mild detergent. That means it is gentle enough not to damage anything, but strong enough to loosen what does not belong. Think of it like dish soap in a greasy pan. You do not need a machine. You do not need pressure. You just need the right thing in the right place for a few minutes. The heat from the idling engine does the rest. The transmission fluid mixes into the old oil, travels through every channel in your engine, grabs the deposits, and loosens them from the walls. Then when you drain the oil, it all comes out together. It is almost insultingly simple. The expensive flush your dealership sells you does the same thing, in a fancier package, with a branded cleaning chemical that costs them pennies. And they charge you $200 for it. Automatic transmission fluid costs about $4 for a full quart. You use 1 tablespoon. That is less than $1 per engine clean. The same result? No appointment, no mechanic, no waiting room with bad coffee. If you have made it this far, you already know more about engine longevity than most people who have been driving for decades. Let me tell you why this matters so much for the long game. Sludge does not kill your engine all at once. It is slow. It is quiet. Your engine does not announce what is happening. You just notice one day that it is not as smooth as it used to be, or it starts burning a little more oil, or the idle feels rough. By then, the damage has been building for years. Most people blame the age of the car. Most mechanics blame the age of the car. What they do not tell you is that an engine that has been cleaned regularly from the beginning does not age that way. It keeps moving freely. It keeps pressure where pressure belongs. It keeps oil flowing to every corner. And engines that get good oil flow last. They last and last and last. Hiroshi's taxis are proof, but they are not the only proof. This technique is common knowledge in parts of Asia and Germany where mechanics treat engines like machines meant to run for a very long time. In those places, throwing away an engine at 150,000 miles is not normal. It is considered a failure of maintenance, because the people there know that an engine, properly cared for, should run for decades. Yours can too. Here's exactly what to do. And I want you to notice how simple this is. First, you need automatic transmission fluid, not a specific brand. Any automatic transmission fluid from any auto parts store or general hardware store. It costs about $4 for a full bottle. You will only ever use 1 tablespoon at a time. That bottle will last you years. The cost per use? Somewhere around 80 cents. Call it $1. Second, you need to wait until your next oil change is due. Do not do this to fresh oil. Do this to old oil, the oil that is already due to come out. You're not treating your engine with this. You're cleaning it before the drain. The dirty oil takes the gunk with it when it goes. That is the whole mechanism. You are giving the old oil one final job before retirement. Third, when your oil change is due, open your engine oil cap. That is the cap on top of your engine, usually labeled with an oil can icon. Pour in exactly 1 tablespoon of automatic transmission fluid. Close the cap back, start your engine, let it idle for 15 minutes. Just let it sit and run. You do not need to rev it. You do not need to drive anywhere. Just idle. The warmth does the work. Fourth, after 15 minutes, turn the engine off. Let it sit for another 5 minutes so the oil drains back down. Then drain your oil exactly like you would for a normal oil change. If you are paying a shop to do your oil change, bring the transmission fluid with you. Tell them to add a tablespoon 15 minutes before they drain it. Most shops will do this without question. Fifth, put in fresh oil as normal. That is it. That is the whole thing. Total cost, $1. Total time, 20 minutes, including the idle. No special tools, no mechanic, no appointment, no waiting. The same engine flush service at a dealership costs $200. Recommended every 30,000 miles, they say. Over 100,000 miles, that is nearly $700. Over 200,000 miles, over $1,400. For something that costs $1 and a tablespoon measure when you do it yourself. Stay here, because what comes next is the part that nobody in the dealership business wants printed. A woman named Maria in Phoenix, Arizona, has been doing this to her family cars for over 20 years. She learned it from a retired mechanic who had spent time working in Japan. Her current car has over 480,000 miles on the original engine. She has never had an engine flush from a shop. She has never paid for an engine repair. She changes her oil on time, adds 1 tablespoon of automatic transmission fluid each time, and that engine keeps running like it has something to prove. 480,000 miles. In Phoenix heat, which is brutal on engines, and it is still going. That mechanic who charged you $150 for an engine flush last year knew this existed. They just never said anything, because your not knowing was worth $150 to them. Every single visit. Think about what this actually means. A $1 tablespoon of fluid that an entire industry built a service around. A service that costs you hundreds of dollars over the life of your car. For something that fits in a tablespoon. You have to understand the business model here. Dealerships and repair shops make money when you come back. They make money when you believe your car needs them. The more often they can convince you that something requires a professional, the more often you walk through their door. Engine flushes are the perfect product for them. You cannot see inside your engine. You have no way to know if it is clean or dirty. You cannot compare your result to anything. So they tell you it needs doing, they do it, you pay, and you have no idea whether it made any difference at all. That is the game. That is how it works. But Hiroshi's taxis do not need that game. Maria's car does not need that game, and neither does yours. The other thing nobody tells you is what clean oil flow actually does to the way your car feels. When sludge builds up and restricts oil movement, your engine works harder. It compensates. It uses more fuel to make the same power. When that sludge is gone, the engine moves freely again. People who start doing this regularly report that their engine feels smoother almost immediately after the oil change. Not dramatically different, not night and day, but noticeably smoother, quieter, like something was cleared away that had been sitting there for a long time. Because something was cleared away. And that smoothness is not cosmetic. That smoothness is protection. A smooth running engine is an engine where the right things are touching in the right way with the right amount of oil between them. That is how engines last. And here is something the industry definitely does not want you knowing. The biggest cause of premature engine death is not high mileage. It is not old age. It is sludge. It is buildup that was never removed because the person driving the car did not know it was happening and did not know how to stop it. Remove the sludge regularly, keep the oil clean, keep the oil flowing, and the mileage on that engine becomes almost irrelevant. Engines do not die because they are old. They die because they were not taken care of. And taking care of them costs $1 per oil change. Dealerships knew this the whole time. Every time you paid $200 for an engine flush, they knew. Every time you paid for a premium additive treatment at the counter because someone in a uniform suggested it, they knew. And they said nothing. Because your not knowing was worth a very large amount of money to them every single year. But now you know. And that puts you in the exact same position as Hiroshi in Osaka, as Maria in Phoenix. You do not have to play by their rules anymore. You do not need their services. You do not need their $200 cleaning package. You need 1 tablespoon in 15 minutes. That is it. That is what separates a car that makes it to 500,000 miles from a car that dies at 150. If this video opens something for you, share it right now. Every person you send this to is someone who is still walking into a dealership and paying $200 for something they could do at home for $1. Every share puts this in front of someone who is about to get charged for something that should cost almost nothing. Subscribe, because the next video is about what mechanics do to your brakes that adds years to their life for basically no cost. And if you drive a car with over 50,000 miles on it, you are going to want to see that one before your next brake inspection, because the conversation in that shop is going to sound very familiar.